So, racing line. On the road, there is no racing line. It's kind of stay in your lane. You might be able to use a little bit of road, a little bit wider than the car if you're feeling adventurous, but there's no need for it because everything should be smooth, gradual. You're not trying to optimize your time. Gaining a hundredth round a roundabout isn't going to save your journey if you're 5 minutes late. On a racetrack, it's very different. So how do people normally approach being on track for the first time coming from the road?
The first few traits that we generally see for people coming from the road to the track is that they get sucked into the corner. So say it's a right-hand corner, they'll be all the way over to the right-hand side before we turn in. In theory, yes, you're travelling less distance, but you can't carry as much speed into the corner because the angle that you're turning around is much tighter. So there's a little bit of almost like maths to the racing line. It's working out that fine line between how much speed can you carry through the corner, how much of the grip can you use of the tyres, but also at the same time you don't want to travel too many metres because it's just more distance. So you're kind of compromising between the wider line, which allows you to apply less steering lock and carry more speed because the arc is much wider. But yeah, at the same time you're going to be travelling further. So there's a lot of things to take into account. Generally on people's first days at the track, there's rubber on the track anyway, so you can sort of see where the lines are. And there's so many videos online now to go and have a look at the racing line before you turn up to the track. But there's so many little techniques like how we use the curbs, how we compromise at one corner to set up for another. That's perfect why we're going to be driving around Spa, because there are so many corners where, okay, you can maybe gain 3/10 on the way into one of the corners, but it's going to hurt you at the corner after. And if there's a big straight after that second corner, you've got to kind of think about, you've got to weigh up basically where the time's going to be found. We'll really focus on thinking almost a corner ahead, at what we're going to do.
Yeah, what is the racing line? When people talk about it, like, what does it actually mean?
It's basically the most efficient way around the lap. It's the simplest way of putting it. It's the line of least resistance that allows you to optimize the car, essentially, which means kind of carrying the most speed, but traveling the least distance, being able to brake as late as possible, and to get on throttle the soonest. It's basically the most efficient way around the track is the best way of putting it. And sometimes that means you have to compromise in other parts of a corner to gain in other sections of the circuit. But yeah, it's just driving as efficiently as possible, carrying the most speed, because the more speed we carry, essentially, is the faster lap time. We get from A to B as fast as possible. So as we're coming down the Kemmel Straight, we're going to be thinking about these next two corners. And it's really important that we get the apex of the first curve, which is all the way over the kind of green bit on the right-hand side. But then we don't want to stay there too long. We want to start transitioning over to the left straight away. So turning in all the way over that green, but now straight away we're getting all the way over this next curve. Good. Staying to the left-hand side because we're going to open up the right-hand corner. Good. And that was basically the path of least resistance, essentially. And it's same here. So we're going to turn in really early, which is a bit unconventional. So nice and early, let the car run out wide, then bringing it back in again later on. Good, because that's going to then open up this corner to allow us to get to the right-hand side before the left. Good. So that's basically an example of thinking about the next corner ahead before we even got to it. That's so important, especially around a circuit like this where you've got a series of 4 very tight left-right-handers. We've really got to be thinking about, okay, where can we really gain the time? You might gain 2/10 into the third corner in that sequence on the way in, but it's going to really cost you because you won't be able to get over to the right-hand side on the exit for the next corner. So it's a massive knock-on effect. If you get one of them wrong, chances are you're going to get the next 3 wrong. So you've almost got to mentally kind of join it all together and go, right, how can I gain the most time here? And like we said before, it might be a case of braking a little bit earlier or taking a little bit of a different line at one corner to set you up for the next one. Yes, when we look at these 2 laps here, this is a good example of the difference in technique. So we see the red line, you've got a gradual deceleration through the corner to your minimum speed here, which is 72.6 kilometers an hour. Now, the non-optimal kind of technique, your minimum speed is about 79, around 79, so it is actually faster. But we look on the exit of the corner here, there's 33 kilometres an hour difference between the faster line and the slower line. So it just shows that it's not all about carrying in loads of speed into the corner because it hasn't gained you anything, and that all comes down to the line. Because on the faster lap, you've got the car stopped more, you've been able to rotate it more at the right point in the corner, nice and early in the corner, whereas on the kind of the non-optimal line, you've basically gone into the corner carrying loads of speed, which is all good and well, but then it's put your line off on the exit and it's really hurt you, because then it basically loses you, let's have a look, yeah, 8/10 basically, which is massive. And that all just comes down to line because it has a knock-on effect on everything else.
Thank you for watching. If you want to book your own session in SimTrack, follow the link in the description below.